In this lesson, then, we're going to look at adding a firing system. So the tank here will fire a missile which will either miss or hit the Blue Dragon as it flies across the screen trying to get the rings there. It would also add to the scoring system. Because this is a very similar mechanism to dropping a fireball, except that it's not coming from the dragon to hit the tank or hit the ground, it's going from the tank upwards. I'm going to use the worksheet and you can follow it along and get your code from there. So the first thing we need to do is we need to add, like we did with the fireball, we need to add a picture box and we need to add a timer. So let's go to the worksheet and we'll follow that on. So here it says add the following code, these two global variables, to the top of your program, just like you did with the fireball. So I'm just going to copy those, go into the top of the program here. So scroll up to the top so you can see the variables at the top. And just under the to the variables, I'm just going to paste in the two there. There's a bit of it that's just lagged in there. Just get that so there's no errors. Okay, so we've got one integer which is going to store where the missile is going to fire from. That's its x-axis. And then we're going to have a Boolean here which says that the missile has fired. Okay, so let's go back to the worksheet and have a look at the instructions here. It says here that we've got to, first of all, get a picture box. And then it says that we're going to put it on there, rename it Pick Missile, then add a transparent GIF, which I've already found. You can download it from Google Classroom for the missile or find your own, and then set its visibility value to false so that it doesn't appear when we first open the screen, but it does when we want to fire it. So we go back to design view here, we go to the toolbar, and we type in pick, start typing picture, and you will find a picture box. So we grab that, put it on the screen, and then we size it up so it's fairly small. It's going to be a little missile here. We then go and get the picture. Now remember, I've already placed mine in the debug folder, but you will have to go and fetch one or put it in there, download it, and put it in your debug folder. So we wait for that to open up. And then we go to the local drive, import, and then we find the missile, okay? And then we click OK. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the size mode to stretched as before. And then we just had to add to some of the properties. So in the properties here, we look for the name property. So we scroll down till we find the property name. I probably passed it. Let's have a look. Yeah, click on the missile first. Make sure the missile is selected. I was on the form there. And then go to the name property and then paste in the name pick missile. Okay, or write it in yourself, but make sure it's exactly the same. Go to the color, back color, go to web and change it to transparency. So it's transparent. And then we're going to go down to the under behavior, under the whether it's visible, and we're going to put that to false. So that's all set up, and I'm just going to drag that to the bottom of the screen there. So if we open back up the worksheet, it says we're going to then go and get a timer. So I'm going to highlight that, Control C to copy it, and we're going to put a timer onto the form and name it TMR missile. Remember, TMR lowercase is abbreviation for timer. So I'm going to start typing in here TIM for timer, drop that onto the form, click on it once, and then add its name property as TMR missile. Okay, so at the moment, what I'm going to do is set the interval to 1. Set the interval to 1 because I want the missile to go fairly quickly. Okay, and now what we're going to do is double click on the missile timer. and then that should open up and place the missile timer in the code. You can see there that there's a missile timer there in the code at the bottom if you double click on it there. Right, so the next thing we've got to do then is go and get the code from the worksheet. So we go down to underneath the instructions there, and we take all the code out from here, right, from the comments all the way down to the section of code. I'll explain the code in a minute. So we copy that there just above the G, and we then can go to the missile timer and we paste it inside its braces. Okay, there it is, there. Okay, then you should, if you get any red there, it's because you've named your objects differently. So you've got to work out the timers and that to start it out. I'll explain the code in a minute. Okay, so we go back to the worksheet to see if there's any more instructions, and it has the instructions. Of course, last time with the fireball, we had something to start the timer off. So what we need is a key press. And we've got to look for the key down command. It says looking here for the key down subroutine. So I'm going to copy this here, and this is the last bit of code. And this will actually, when you press the space bar, will set off the code. And I will talk you through that once we've done it. So we've got to scroll up to find the switch case statement. And there it is, because we've got the form key down. And we go to the break at the bottom, make a space, and then we paste the code in. And again, if there's any red in there, it's probably because you've named things wrong or you haven't cut and paste properly. Be careful not to overwrite some of the curly brackets. So this is how it works then. We've got the two variables at the top there that's going to store the information that we want. So the missile firing is currently set to false. We press the keyboard while the game's in action. We can be going left or right, you can see here, with moving the tank. When we pressed it, if the Boolean statement here, which says missile fired at the is not it's not missile fired. So at the moment it's false, and that'd be true. So it then starts the missile timer, which runs our timer. It then shows the missile because we hid it, remember. It places the missile where the tank is, plus 25, and at the top of the tank. So it appears at the top of the tank and then it will start to fly upwards. Now we set the missile Boolean to true, so it doesn't launch any more missiles if you press the spacebar more than once until that it is false again, basically, and you turn it off. So we now go down to the bottom where the missile timer was, right down the bottom here. And when we've actually hit the spacebar and this is turned on, every microsecond, what it will do is it will start this subroutine. It will move the missile up the screen by 5. And if it intersects with the blue dragon here, so if the missile bounds here, intersects with the blue dragon, and the dragon is visible, it hides the blue dragon, stops the blue dragon timer so it doesn't move any further. It hides the missile picture because we don't want the missile picture there. And it turns the firing to false, so we can fire another missile. It also stops the missile timer, and it puts 50 on the score. You can, if you want to add to the score. Makes no sense, this scoring system, because the dragon's getting you points by getting rings as well. So down here, it says if the missile hits the top of the screen, yeah, so if it's 0 at the top of the screen, it will hide the missile. The missile firing is false, and then it will stop the missile time, which will allow you to fire another missile if you've missed it. So all we have to do now is run our program to see it in action. And here we go. Took a little bit of time to start up, so it's going to go. We can go left and right, and we can start firing missiles. There you go. Now notice we've got a little blip there because while we're firing the missile, it's actually showing that it's appearing in front. So I'm going to show you a little trick there. Just look at that again. You can see it's just in front of the missile, and we don't want that. So I'm going to close this down. I'm going to add a little bit of code that should actually stop that from happening. So what I'm going to do is, and when I fire the missile, I'm going to push the missile to the back. Okay. So basically, I'm going to tell it to put the missile to the back. So we're going to go back to the key down thing here. We're going to go to the space bar. We're going to add another line here before we before we show the missile. We're going to, just underneath here, we're going to put pick missile, and we're going to go press an S for send, and you can see down here it's got send to the back, send to the back. So we're going to click on that, and basically that should send the missile to the back. Now if we run it again, all that'll do is push the image to the back of the tank and the rest of the images. So I'm just going to run that again. Now this time when I fire the missile, it looks like now it's firing from the back of the tank. There you go. And then we can carry on doing that. Okay. That is the end of the video.